Oh, it's pretty easy.
Yeah. Yeah, I've never looked into it personally, but
Yeah, no, I'm looking forward into it. To actually, we're working as Roku. One of the reasons I'm raising a little bit of cash is so we can uh, invite people into it. Wow. Okay. Thank you, everybody. And so, yeah, we're here again with the telethon, and hopefully, we'll have more people come on and visit. And so, there goes. If you want to, we have another room, which is here. Let me go ahead and let me open it up so you can hear it. And that is our VI. This is our VIP room. This is our lounge, so you can join it there. So you can join us over there and have a conversation with the various set. And you'll be seeing that if you go to the Witchville International pages or Corellian Hub, you can get a link directly to that or on my own personal page. But we're back with Cloud and starting off another afternoon.
Yeah, it's good to be back on, and how's it going? How's everything going with the fair? Everything's going well.
So far, yeah, pretty well. We've raised $1,300, so that's the good news. We have still lots of readers. We have a lot of live readers right now available. So if you signed up right now, you would be you'd be able to get yourself one of the readers out there.
So instant gratification, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I've learned let me be honest, I've learned an awful lot about how to run these things. Yeah, because this is a flash event. People understand that sometimes you do things that are very long-term and very much what you do, but sometimes we just go flash and do it quick because you can, and you need to test an idea, and we have, and it's been very successful. And one of the things I think I most learned is how much of our community really wants to have and be more helpful with each other, but at the same time, how much of it's so isolated and doesn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. I mean, I know I definitely fall in that category of wanting to do whatever I can with the community. And there's a lot of people that I talk to that do a lot for the community. And there's also a lot of people who are interested in doing what they can for the community, but haven't taken the jump yet.
Right.
Help out and be a part of things. So, for anybody out there listening on that end, I challenge you to come out and jump in and help out with the community and, do what it is you can. Talk about your views, talk with other pages, get other avenues working so that we can build this thing. It's definitely something that I'm interested in and I've been working on myself on my own end. So,
because like you were mentioning yesterday, you were mentioning musicians and such.
Oh yeah. Like right now in the community, a lot of our pagan musicians, if you go and you look on Facebook and a lot of the pagan music groups and stuff like that, a lot of the musicians have resorted to doing these live at-home concerts on Facebook. And there's a couple other portals that they could use to hold these concerts as well. And I think it's absolutely amazing that we have the ability to do that now, this day and age. Because let's face it, a lot of the musicians out there make their money touring the festival circuit, selling merch at festivals, meeting new people, all of that happens within the pagan music community. And there's a lot of people struggling right now, So it's definitely good to have this platform of communication to be able to do this, raise awareness for the people who are hurting, and all of that.
So we have now been added, as you can see from the gallery view. Let me show everybody the gallery view. Hi, everybody. This is the Psychics. This is Rich Donahue, Cloud, our rapper, and he's been out here helping us. And now you have more of an audience to talk to right here.
Yes. Hello, everybody.
So this is Telethon, and welcome. And these readers are available. If you see any of them, they're on the screen right now, well, it's not Jason, but if they're on the screen right now, you go to their names on the tiles, and we will get you a reading with them right away.
Nice. Yes, and absolutely do so.
All right,
Because that's what this is all about. That's what we're doing this for.
And so, all these guys are experts. We're talking about pagan music and ideas of helping musicians and such. And I know that you guys have a lot of interest in that. Just to let everybody know out there, it's Corellian.net. Join us out there. We'll put back in that. So Corellian.net is where you get your readings. You'll see a bunch of readers. Fluffy's a good reader. Alan, great reader. We all love you guys. Victoria, we can get out the readings. But today we're going to talk a little bit with Cloud, who's done his album, Misconceptions, and Wiccan Rap, and he's going to perform for us too. But talk about the idea of the idea of music, and the idea of pagan music. And so let me let you lead the conversation.
By all means. So basically, pagan music nowadays, a lot of people have a misconception of what pagan music is, and they've kind of created its own genre and said this genre of music is pagan music. But it's not a genre. It's an inspiration of lyrical and pagan inspired art that spans through different genres of music. And if you really dig, you can find pagan inspired music of all genres of music, myself included. So I do pagan hip hop, but there are, pagan metal bands out there. Everybody knows about that. There's like your traditional pagan folk style music. Everybody knows about that, but there's like pagan dance and techno, and there's all sorts of different genres of music. But why is it that everything within the pagan music world gets grouped into this is pagan music, and that's what it is? So one of the things that I'm thinking about is with this project is to, so one of the things that I was thinking about with the plan for my music is to move it forward and start touching on different genres of music. And I had this project started that we're going to turn back to that I called the Wicked Music Experiment, where I was writing pagan-inspired music through all sorts of different genres of music. Okay, and any of you musicians out there that write music, but it may not be pagan music, why not try to put a little pagan flair, a little inspiration behind what it is that you're writing? And that's what I've done with the hip hop album that I've created. And like I said, there's maybe 4 pagan hip hop artists out there that it's a little wild, and to see the next generation of pagans that are growing up, learning about the craft and everything, I feel that it's good to have a couple. Oh, hello. I feel that it's good to have a couple of other avenues to make things more relatable to this day and age and how they're growing up, but still remember the point behind the teachings of your witchcraft, be it traditional or solitary, however it turns to be, So just to give an example, I'm going to do one of my songs off of my new album. The song's called Get Your Mind Right, and it's meant to be like a day in the life of a pagan on the day that we have circle or we have ritual later in that evening. So hopefully you guys like it. And then we're going to go from there. And if anybody has anything to say afterwards, by all means, we can talk about it. But yeah, I'm just going to go and do this one song. Hopefully it sounds good. We're working with an open air mic on a cell phone with a PA in my attic, so it might be a little meh on the sound, but I'm going to give it a shot. All right? So, like I said, this one's called Get Your Mind Right.
So in the
you know that's right. Y'all feeling this vibe right here? I hope so. We have a circle tonight, yeah. It's a little something I do. Yo, I'm feeling really good today. Yo, it's time to take a trip just to get away. Yo, since I woke up, I'm feeling this vibe, and it's time to have it ready for the circle tonight. Straight ahead, the fix, make me slap. Yo, I'm going to my spot to relieve a little stress. Then I get out to my place, feel like the meditate out here in the mother's embrace. I sit down, close my eyes, put my hands on the ground, and I clear my mind. If I take a little bit, it'll get through the time. I'm just pushing off the pressure of this daily grind. Never really sure just what you'll find out here in nature. It's spending enough time, right? Let organize and let the stress that your spirit takes over. Not connect. Here it is, nice tonight. Get together with my coming alright. We have a circle on Saturday night, so let me make sure that I get my mind right. Here it is, nice tonight. Get together with my coming alright. We have a circle on Saturday night, so let me make sure that I get my mind right. Control your breathing, you'll pass away. Listen to the rhythm, you'll be whistling away. Control is to get your mind to a place where the day it just slips away. And from the hunt for spiritual peace, I say goodbye to the gods, but I don't want to leave. But I gotta get back to where it's civilized. Gotta do things, I gotta grab for the night. I'm moving to the liquor store, grab a bottle of wine, and then I grab a couple more. Check the clock, yo, we still got time. So let me shoot through and go see my girl Kai. A tradition of mine since 2009. Yo, get a little high, yo, kill some time. Sit around and chill till we both feeling fine. And just kidding, it's about a regular night. Here it is, nice tonight. Get together with my coming alright. We have a circle on a Saturday night, so let me make sure that I get my mind right. Here it is, nice tonight. Get together with my coming alright. We have a circle on a Saturday night, so let me make sure that I get my mind right. Yo, y'all, it's time to blow. Won't save the game before we go. Talk to you about the candlelight, bring a chair and dancing in our sacred right. We all get together, yo, bless me, every minute of the altar, do some cleansing. Drinking me the wine, yo, we're having a blast, till we all group up in the circles cast, yo. I ain't gonna tell y'all what we do in circles. That's our thing. No, that's right. So I really hope. What do you guys think? Pop in the conversation. I want to know what people think of the possibility of pagan music being added into more mainstream genres of music.
Am I right in saying that you draw your harmonies and melodies from the early 90s, late 80s hip hop style? Am I right on that?
Dead on with that, actually. So, you know, I practice the old ways, right? Why not practice the old ways of hip hop? But no, seriously, the way hip hop is nowadays, it's all the same for the most part. Everything sounds exactly the same, and just about every song is written about the same, like 4 or 5 things. And hip hop at its core, from the old school, from when it was first incepted, it first came out of, you know, your urban areas and everything. It was a matter of expression for people there was like a stigma around their communities, and there was definitely things from the government and how law enforcement and everything affected their communities due to the amount of crime and poverty and all that involved. So it was a form of expression for them to talk about how things were in their community. Hip hop has pretty much lost sight of that nowadays, in my opinion. But I wanted to make sure that I paid proper respects to the art of hip hop when I was creating this album, you know, and talking about what's going on in my community. So,
Well, you could have chosen to rock, hip hop, pop. What made you attach so well to the hip hop genre?
Well, it's funny. I played metal bands growing up and stuff, and I've always had a love for hip hop. And I think the most before is the poetry involved in it, of being able to express yourself and get your point across lyrically, and to these beats that are, some are uplifting, some are dark. You can put the emotion behind the beat to help you work with the lyrics. So, for example, when I write lyrics, I go with the beat first, and I write the lyrics based off of how the beat feels. Which gives it more of a. There's a word I'm looking for, but it's slipping me right now.
Time, tempo.
Yeah, it gives me like a motivation for the song, so that way I could properly put what I want to say across in a manner and have everybody feel it,
In a sense, what happens is the music and the beat gives you the feeling, and you use the feeling as the bridge to the subject and the lyrics that you want to get across.
Exactly. It's kind of like taking in the energy from what I'm feeling at the time, and then I process it and put it out in the lyrical format, and then I write it down, and then I record it. A lot of the album, that was one of the more upbeat tracks on the album. I also have some like very angry tracks on the album. I have, sad tracks on the album. It's like kind of meant to work like an emotional roller coaster, as into where how we feel as pagans in pagan life, especially when I was coming up in the prep, and it was in the 90s, early 2000s, when it wasn't as accepted as it is now. So there was a lot of discrimination, a lot of dirty looks, a lot of that. And we've all dealt with that. And there's a lot of that on the album as well. So
when you were playing your music, it brought me back to an era when hip hop and rap first began with DJ Cool.
Oh wow, nice.
Okay, and I'm from New York. Okay, so I've been through a lot of eras of different generations, and your beat brought me back to "Let Me Clear My Throat" when he did that. That is one of the earliest hip hops and rap artists that were out there. So I think that your music reflected his particular genre. And that's very old. That's very classic. So yeah. The only thing is I have very hard of hearing, so your lyrics were a little lost. I caught some, but I missed them. But I think that's just the audio here.
Yeah, the audio, I did a couple songs when I was on yesterday, and the audio was jumping up and down a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
But we're working with what we got. But I appreciate.
Yeah, and I'm also a little deaf, so
It's hard to do mixing in this format. But one of the things that is unique about what you're trying to do is that almost exclusively up to nowadays, the whole pagan folk music, the pagan music genre has been so closely allied with folk rock. Because I've gone to Starwood Festival for more than a decade, and there have been a number of different bands and such. They usually bring in some bands, and they could be hard rock. They had Big Brother and the Holding Company, Janis Joplin's old band, but they weren't pagan. But the ones that were exclusively pagan and the performers were largely in the folk rock genre, although some of them started to do electric guitars and some things like that, and it's interesting to see, what can you do if you don't put yourself in that box and start to move out in other directions to express things. So I got to give you kudos for thinking outside the box in that sense.
Without a doubt. It's to put yourself out there in that genre, in a hip hop, in a pagan community. I think you're really ballsy, and I think goes against the grain. And I would definitely give you thumbs up for that. That's for sure, because a lot of the pagan community would definitely, be very discouraged by hip hop in there. What did you say? Hello? What?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because
I have a
everybody
feeling.
reflects hip hop and rap as drugs, gangster, and murder. I mean, and that's
Absolutely,
just
absolutely.
human nature. Okay.
See, I have a theory about that, and I have like one of the reasons why hip hop music in general doesn't speak to the pagan community is because of the content behind most hip hop.
Yeah, gangster,
You hit
gangster
it on the
murder,
head.
right?
You really did. You really hit it on the head because it's more about drugs and violence, gang life, and or even moving forward into more of your like glamorous rap where it's talking about cars and money and women and all of these other
Yeah.
topics. But hip hop used to be about what was going on in the world. Rappers used to make a point with what they were saying. It's not really so much the case anymore, but I wanted to make sure that I still continue to make a point with my music.
Well, here's one of the things that I was just thinking of. Hip hop emerged, as you said, out of an urban environment. Okay. Most of the tropes of pagan thinking and idealism are agrarian, going back to the old days and nature and, growing seeds and, and farming and being close to the land. What people are forgetting is that the major cities of Greece were pagan, and there it would be real interesting to see something that would be urban, pagan, ancient Greek democratic kind of, what would happen if you did a hip hop song as if you were in Athens in 200 BC when Socrates is wandering around.
I think that would
That's actually a really interesting concept. I might work something like that up. That's very interesting.
Yeah, it's like, who is this guy and why are we putting him on trial? And and what his student Plato is worried, and why is he taking why are they making him drink this stuff and kill him? That in itself could be really inspiring and have kind of a structural trope that's similar to that early urban hip hop movement, the injustice of it all, the injustice of killing Socrates, who is, he called himself the gadfly that made people think,
Yeah, it's funny because like when you look at like what I'm doing is like I'm not doing this out of any disrespect to any traditions or anything like that. What I'm doing is talking about pagan life in a relatable fashion.
Yeah.
To where the non-magical world out there can kind of understand where we're coming from or how certain things make us feel as individuals when we deal with certain situations, and a lot of people don't understand that because people are basically coached from their entire life to think one certain way. And then when they get older, this whole world's in front of them. And you're faced with a choice at that point of whether you want to continue that or if you want to expand your mind and think about things more objectively. And I think at that point in a lot of people's life, that's where ideas as such come from.
Yeah, you're literally, well, I think it was Frank Zappa who said, without deviation from the mean, there would be no progress.
Yes. Yes.
I mean, what the heck? I mean, this is certainly worthwhile thinking. I mean, I was like, gee, I wonder what pagan polka would be like,
And you know what? I'm sure it's out there somewhere.
Or Tejano, use some of that stuff. I'm just thinking of accordions, what would it be like to give that kind of beat from the Tex-Mex kind of thing? There's all sorts of possibilities. And it's like, wait a minute, we can express ourselves in so many different forms and get some of our ideas across that way too.
Yeah, because like I was saying, like I have this Wicked Music Experiment project that I've been working on where I have like a pop punk song written. It's called Skyclad. It's really funny. you know, and then I have a blues song written. I have like all these other songs based in like different like groups of music. And when I get better enough recording equipment to be able to like lay all this stuff down and have it sound proper, I am going to release this as like a kind of my end game, I guess you could say.
Sure.
And I have like 4 or 5 songs written that sound like they could be like Christian rock songs, like full-on Christian worship songs. And then I have some songs that sound almost country, and it's just throughout everything. Because
Well, there has been one pagan bluegrass album, you know,
yeah,
but
there's one, you know.
Yeah, just one.
And a lot of people will put like one album out trying to do this, and then it won't take off or whatever, and they won't release another, you know. And then you only have this like one small body of work to work with for any kind of inspiration for anybody else to do anything kind of like that.
Well, see, I think that's a great word to grab the interest and inspiration of the different generations that are out there who are culturally different, who might actually reflect upon the music that you are trying to, you know, impress upon people. Different ways to, you know, say, hey, look at us. We're not just this. You know, we can be this, this, and that. You know, we're not, you know, in these brackets of just, okay, the music of Omnia, you know.
Yeah.
And those guys are pretty awesome, but there's so many different
It's
musicians
great.
out
It's
there.
fun.
So I'm pretty impressed with your thought process as far as bringing your music out to the diversity of different people. I think that is pretty impressive. And
Yeah, there are a few other pagan hip hop artists that are around.
They're very quiet then, because I don't hear much from them. Then they must be very, very low key.
Yeah, they are. There's Gruff the Druid. He's from Canada. There's Manny the Bard. He's from Belgium. There's a couple more, I think, but for the most part, I know that I am like in a very like sub genre of music.
Well, I'm not a music snob, and I hope to hear more of your work out there in, you know, in all the diverse things that you said you have out there. I'd love to witness them. You know what I mean? I'd love to hear I'm not a music snob. I believe anybody who has that kind of gift is, you know, it needs to be out there. It needs to be heard. You give the gift of music, regardless of how it is. And I think that's pretty awesome. So
I appreciate it.
You said you had an album out?
Yeah, I have another one queued up if you guys want to hear another one. This one is a dedication song. It's a devotional rap song, and it's written directly for the goddess. Okay, and I left it broad as the goddess so that anybody could take this idea for whichever deity that they wish to work with. Try and keep it as open as possible and to speak to as many people as possible. It's called Take a Look Around. And it's one of my favorite songs on the album. You guys like it? Never want anything. Once in a while, and then repeat it for doing Johnson to keep the place. And if the right spirit of she was queen of all witches. Do you really know the mystery of she who gives life all to all things? Just know that you can't be found unless you open your eyes up and take a look around. Do you really know the mystery of she who gives life all to all things? Just know that you can't be found unless you open your eyes up and take a look around. You found the dark of the time. May I walk with you through this dark time. And the world thought really good to forget mine. Now I'm here for a piece of show patience of life. Let me pour out upon the earth. It's something like hope you return. Even if the world pushes back out, even when I'm stacked out, I'll be humble back out. Put your foolish, I'm a belly bow. I'll pick you ready to finish. Go outside, take a look around.
See, I'm living in the dark of the night, with my arms raised high, with the light. Out here with my sisters and brothers, we drove it down to the river. She can never know the mystery of she who gives life on she won't face. Just know that she can't be found unless you open your eyes up and take a look around. Do you really know the mystery of she who gives life on she won't face? Just know that she can't be found unless you open your eyes up and take a look around. You be cynical at all, that's the only country like rituals. Take your time and watch the sunset. Young girl, when she takes the first steps. Her beauty is all over the place. And it's sad, it's even true, a bit disgrace. Gotta be better, true, every one another. It should be our job to take care of my mother. Do you really know the mystery of she who gives life unto all things? Just know that she can't be found unless you open your eyes up and take a look around. Do you really know the mystery of she who gives life unto all things? Just know that she can't be found unless you open your eyes up and take a look around. Of the unknown, broken past God, with the wisdom, down in my system. When I feel lost, say a little prayer, you see, and to be there for me. Tell me little things I don't see. God's been here on the oh, believe me, from the stars and seas. Open the door to see things unseen. Let me be free to see both sides of me, so that I may banish things that I believe. To be free from angry greed, as I will, so let it be. Do you really want to know? Yeah. Do you really want to know?
Zero.
Do you really want to know? Yeah. If you really want to know, just take a look around. She is everywhere. She's here in everything. Take a look around. She's with us from the beginning. She is with us contained at the end of desire. Take a look around. Thank you.
Wow.
That came out well.
I think the audio here is not doing any justice for you at all. I wish it was better. I really do.
Well, if you want to listen to it, you can go to cloudrapswicca.bandcamp.com.
Could you put that in there somewhere or leave a link
In the
later?
chat room.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me see what I can do here.
Yeah, I would love to hear this with good mixing and everything. As a matter of fact, you said there's several other rap artists. You could do a compilation album that I think would be wonderful. Get
But
some
you know,
of those
I've
folks,
actually
put
reached out to
everything
Manny
together.
Nabard about that. I've actually reached out to Manny Nabard about that, but he hasn't gotten back to me yet. But
Well, the only reason why I'm saying is, you know, it's live streaming and this audio is just, it's not presenting you properly. And I feel horrible.
It doesn't help with the tonality or the sound quality,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
it's, you know,
all right, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. Obviously, this is causing a bit of an issue. Let me first turn my piano. All right, there we go. Okay, so I'm going to, when we finish up here, I'm going to put a link in the description on both the Witch School and the Daily Spell live streams.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave a comment in both of those with the link. I'm working off of my cell phone right now, so I actually can't put a link in.
Right.
So I'll leave a link down there so you guys can give it a solid listen, you know, and give it a good listen, because it's a shame that it's not picking up as well as it does. But it's a live stream, and we're all, it's a very unprecedented event that we're all doing right now. But we're also getting a ton of data on how to make things better for next time. So,
Oh, of course. You know, this whole format and this technology is meant for conversation and not music, and that's part of the problem.
yeah, I think I might be overloading it a little bit.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I know there's a whole science behind audio stuff, and I have no idea. but most of it works, you know.
You know,
I have
I
some
do a
idea.
baseline knowledge. I
Yeah.
definitely not an expert when it comes to it. That's for sure.
I wanted to just say thank you so much, and I wish I could have heard better quality from this system. I really am interested in listening to your music later, but I have to leave. I need to check the lobby first, and then I must actually leave to go to work.
That is
Oh,
what we're gonna
Meemaw,
do,
you're
right?
abandoning your kids. Come
I'm
on.
sorry, my heart. I'm sorry, my heart. I have to actually
Oh,
deal with the public. But thank you so much for letting me be here and witnessing something new and wonderful. Thank you so much.
Be well, wear your mask, keep your distance.
I do. I take very good care of myself. Thank you so much, guys.
Live
Miss
long and
LeFay?
prosper.
Bye. Thank you very much. It's
Blessings.
a pleasure speaking with you.
Goddess bless.
My Isabella, go get
Yes,
something to eat.
Meemaw.
Miss LeFay,
Yes.
live long and prosper. I'll see you later.
Yeah, I got it. And in New York, it would have been like this. I'm down, brother.
Yeah, I'm from New Jersey. I
Take
know
care.
that one well.
I'm from New Jersey. I'm from New
Take
York.
care.
No, I'm from New Jersey.
Uh-oh.
Yep.
Yep.
Apparently, I'm a problem now. I'm sorry. No, I'm closer to Philadelphia though. I don't really live. I live about 2.5, 3 hours from New York.
It's okay. I've moved to Florida, which is okay. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day, guys.
Absolutely.
Take care,
Absolutely.
Meemaw.
Bye bye, my love.
Bye. Man. So here we are. So yeah, looks like the music side of things we might have to put on hold because it's not sounding right. And so I think what I'll do is I'll make sure that I leave some links in the description and everything so that people can find it. It's a little sad that it didn't sound all that great, but we're gonna do what we can, work with what we got, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Tell me, is most of your musical training like self-learned, or have you had some training in you play certain instruments and that sort of thing, or?
I can play piano, drums, keyboards, because there's are two different things, whether you want to think about it or not. I play guitar, bass guitar, and I'm self-taught for all of them.
Mhm.
So I'm like not a master of any instrument, but I can play a bunch and like hold my own in a jam project or a band.
That's great, because then you have all of that basis to draw on and mix from, but you also haven't been beaten with a stick by a teacher to do it a certain way too.
Well, yeah, and it's good because when you are self-taught like that, you can put your own fingerprints on things. You kind of create your own style of sound.
Mhm.
And that's something that I plan on adding more to my music throughout the course of my career. Like, for example, the main goal, like financially from this album, was to get money to get better recording equipment. And so that I can start adding some live instruments and some drumming and some other aspects to my music, but still keep it hip hop, but do more of like a roots kind of thing where there's like more live instruments involved and more of a process musically than just a computer generated beat.
You said you did some metal before too?
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I played bass in a metal band, and I played bass in a hardcore metal band back in like the 2000s when bands like Hatebreed and like Terror were like very popular. Where it's like all the lyrics are like, "I'm tougher than you," like.
one thing that you might like just for comic relief, and I recommend this to anybody, I just saw it the other day. My ancestry is from Finland. And for those who don't know it, Finland has the highest percentage per population of metal bands in the world.
Yes.
And one of
Wow.
the things that happened a few years ago is some guys did a movie that is a humorous, there are scenes in it that are so funny about a bunch of guys that have been playing for 12 years together in their father's shop basement where they cut reindeer meat, and they finally get a gig, and what happens, and it's called Heavy Trip, and it is hilarious. It's on Amazon Prime for those of you who have it, and it's done in Finnish, but it has English subtitles, and the ending is hilarious, and one of the best scenes where they're trying to go across the Norwegian border, and I almost laughed myself to death. So with your metal background, you would probably appreciate it. And I mean, they do absurd things, and it's almost a bit of Monty Python kind of absurdity and such. And there's a little love story in between there, and the characters in the band are stereotypes that are really drawn big, and so Heavy Trip, and it got 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
Is it like the typical like band things of like how the drummer's an idiot, or like
the drummer keeps dying and they have to give him CPR?
Oh, that's even better.
Yeah, and think of it as a metal version of
Spinal Tap.
Of what?
Spinal Tap.
Spinal Tap. Yes. Yes.
Talk about the spontaneous combustion of drummers in the 80s.
Oh yeah, one of the guys does a riff and the other guy says, no, that was done in an album in 1986, blah blah blah, and then he does another riff. It says 1991 did blah blah blah, and then he goes through several more, and finally he does something I haven't heard that before.
But
So, Rich,
nowadays that's one of the hardest things to do with writing music, is to come up with something that doesn't sound like anything else.
Right.
So, Rich, where can we buy your album?
All right, so you can go to cloudrapswicca.bandcamp.com. Currently, that's the only place that's available. It's in a log jam with a distributor right now for being posted on Spotify and iTunes and all of that. So right now, the Bandcamp site is where you guys can pick it up. And the album is only $10. It's 14 tracks, it's $10, and I purposely put it at $10 so that way people who were like, I don't know about pagan rap, I don't know about that, you can give it a listen, and if you don't like it, you didn't break the bank.
cloudrapswicca.bandcamp.com. Several of us are typing.
I type pretty slow myself, so.
Welcome to Pagan Rap. Okay.
Yep, that's me.
Misconceptions.
Yeah, I did a photo shoot and everything for that.
Excellent.
Yeah, there's 14 tracks, well, 13 in an intro. There's some voiceover work that's done on the album. That voiceover work was all done by the High Priestess of my coven, that we aptly call Lady Bookworm. She did an excellent job with the voiceovers on the album, where we're kind of talking about different things, and some within the community and some from outside the community, There's a song on the album called Scene from a Convenience Store. It's probably the hardest hitting song on the album. And it's about the anger that we feel and it's from an actual point in my life where I was standing in line at a Wawa in New Jersey, and somebody saw my pentacle and they started yelling at me about Jesus. And as much as I wanted to have a debate with her right there and talk about it, go to bat for myself and all of that, I just sat down and I took it and I waited for her to finish, and I got out in the car and hit the steering wheel a couple times, and and that song is meant to portray the anger of that situation, So
Yeah.
there's a lot of ups and downs on the album.
If you want to steal my idea, one of the things that shuts people down, not all the time, but some of the time, okay, is there's two words that describe Christianity and compress it into just two words. And that is vicarious salvation. Somebody else has done the work in order to save you.
Yes. And
that was given to me by, there was just a throwaway, well, it wasn't quite a throwaway line, but the guy who wrote Donald Michael Craig used that in one of his workshops, and I went, that's brilliant. It's a great summary. So I just tell Christians, I don't believe in vicarious salvation. And, for those with the low vocabulary, they have to take a little time.
Yes, that'll make a lot of people think real quick.
Right. And for others, I say, look at every other religion says you have to do your stuff yourself. Even Judaism, you have to do certain things in order to get favor with God. Buddhism and Hinduism, you have to work on your own stuff with meditation and acts of kindness and build your merit up. I don't think any other entity can do it for you.
Yep. It's just like with us as pagans when we cast magic, we put together, we put our energies out into the world, and we do all of this, this ritual that goes along with it, and all of that, writing the spell, putting our energies into the process of that to the final actual casting of the spell. That's all fine and dandy that we do that, but if you don't follow through with it and see it through for yourself, then what do you got? Mm-hmm. So it's very fluid. I firmly believe that when it comes to religion as itself, we're all praying to the same thing, like that divine spark that we're all in. If you follow a religion, for those of us, but people are doing it in different ways. Mm-hmm. And everybody has their own teachings depending on what some people believed a long time ago as to determine what people are believing now. It's all the same things, it's done in different manners, in different fashions. And then you have Christianity, which is the exception to that, where it is, this is our way. You don't follow our way, you're going to hell.
Right. There are a few Christians who are what are called universalists that there's one line in the New Testament that says, all will be saved, blah, blah, blah. And some of them say, that means everybody, God's merciful enough, and the Universalists, there's a church called the Unitarian Universalist Association, and it was made up of two different churches. And somebody gave me a summary of the two different sides. The Universalists said, God is too merciful to condemn everyone. And the Unitarians said, God is, what was it? No soul is eternal and cannot do anything that deserves eternal punishment. And so they combined back in 1962, and they've got a lot of pagans in their group. They've got everything from atheists to pagans.
Oh, yeah, there's the Unitarian Universalists have a church. That's only say about 15 minutes from where I live, and they have a full-on open circle for each solstice and each Sabbath.
Sure, there's a whole covenant of Unitarian Universalist pagans. I know the people who founded it, or at least a few of the founders. So there are a few Christians that will say not everyone is condemned, but they are by far the minority.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
absolutely.
So I'm Christian. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm not popping up on the screen for some reason.
Hey, I got you.
Oh, okay. Well, I was raised Christian, found paganism, went through witchcraft, Buddhism, a couple other random things, came full circle, and I'm trying to identify what the hell I am now.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm actually thinking about looking up a Unitary church in my area to see if there's anything around that could work, just to continue exploring and expanding and to see what's out there.
Yep.
So thank you for the reminder. That is actually on my list of things to do.
Like I said, my wife and I, we attended a Unitarian Universalist church just to kind of see how it was and everything. And it was a really, really nice setting. And everybody was super, super pleasant. And we really enjoyed our time that we spent with them. So I would say go for it.
For a period of time, I was even considering going to seminary. But one of the things that I found is that there's a very old joke. There was a person dies and they come to a crossroads, and there's two signs, a fork in the road, actually. One sign says to heaven, and the other sign says to a discussion of heaven. And the Unitarian is the one who goes to the discussion.
Yeah.
They're very, I'm accused of being overly intellectual. The Unitarians are even more so. Some of their rituals and some of their services are actually just a bit too boring for me. But there are groups within that, actually one of the things that's happened to them lately is they've started to have like these spiritual groups of, no more than 12 people that get together to support each other spiritually. Sounds familiar.
Yeah.
That sounds very familiar.
Fluffy, one of the things you may want to look into is Gnostic Christianity. There are a lot of Gnostics that are very magically oriented too.
Yeah, I currently go to a church that operates out of a food lounge / pub, and the entire premise of that church is LGBTQ friendly, is that we are encouraged to grab a beer, sit down during the service and listen. And it's the Greater Purpose Community Church in my area. It's been around forever. And the pastor is going through a historical account of the Bible, and it's being put back into the historic and cultural setting. So we're getting an entirely different version of Jesus and the Gospels and everything else. And it's a wonderful experience. And at the end of the service, the pastor is almost screaming at us in rage and how politics are operating and how things are getting messed up and people are being hurt and offended. And it's actually quite empowering. And I'm finding myself not wanting to interact with people that cause problems. I just walk away, feeling empowered and undesiring to be in conflict because it's just not worth it. You're lowering your vibration down to those of the people around you, and you're being brought down, and you don't need to do that. You could love without engaging.
Well, the people that you hang around with will influence you. I mean, back when I was doing therapy with heroin addicts, one of the things that we did was, you're not going to get away from heroin if you're hanging out with your old friends who are shooting up next to you all the time.
Yeah.
It's a very simple principle. Be with some people who are more positive. I go to science fiction conventions so that I can hang out with people that are smarter than me. And that challenges me, In
your case, that would be hard to do.
No, there's plenty of people that are smarter than me.
I tell people you need to have friends who challenge you, who want you to grow and don't want to hold you back. Because the people who sit there and they start to put you down because you're growing and they don't want to grow. So, a lot of people believe that once you get out of high school, you stop learning. That's not the case. You continue to learn, you continue to evolve, you continue to grow because that is what your soul wants you to do. And you have certain lessons that you need to learn in this life. So for the next life, you don't have to repeat the same damn crap, right?
Yeah.
You'll make different errors, but you know, my cousin is a world famous life coach. And one of the things she says to watch out for if you're trying to improve your life is don't hang out with your complaining buddies.
Bingo. I mean,
That
that's
would be one of
that's
my-
what I've got friends who, you know, I like to have them as friends and everything, but I've done since I've had my enlightenment, I've cut out a lot of people out of my life because, especially a lot of family members, because it was just so negative. They're the ones that say, "Oh, I support you, but," you know, when you hear that "but," it's kind of like what was that show, Game of Thrones, where they said that everything before the word "but" is bullshit.
Right.
You know, they're not really there to support you. And so I cut them out. And of course, they don't like that. But you know what? I told him, I said, listen, you talk to me in your authentic self, or you come to me because you want to emerge your authentic self, and we will have a conversation. But I'm not going to sit here and talk about the past all the time, because we are in the here and the now, and we need to be able to move forward, not backwards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learn from the past, but realize that you're not there.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, if you're not taking
takes-
steps to move forward, then what are you doing? You know, that's just how I see it. And you know, I spent a lot of time in my life. I mean, I'm coming up on 40 years old, and I had a solid like 10-year patch where I was basically stuck in a rut with very similar people to what you're speaking about, Nikki. It was very kind of like trapped. This is how life is. This is what it's going to be. You know, it wasn't until a little bit later on that I like broke through out of all that noise and like realized that like, no, if I'm going to move forward, I got to leave this part of me behind and keep going.
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely relate to what you just said. Like you hit it on the head. I was like, yes.
As they say, you can pick your friends, but you can't pick your relatives, you know?
I know. And isn't that bad?
Well, you know, one of the things that I learned when I was studying family therapy is that families, that one way to look at families is there's a dimension, and the dimension goes all the way from what's called enmeshed to disengaged.
Mm-hmm.
And enmeshed is the kind of family where, okay, you get married and you're expected to live on the same block as your parents and your siblings, and nobody has their door locked because people come in and out. Now, enmeshed families can be good in that they support each other, but it's bad in that you don't have any individuality. On the other hand, there's the disengaged families, which is more of what mine came from. You see each other at weddings and funerals for your extended family. And maybe, you know, a couple of times in your lifetime, you might go and visit some of the ones that are more than 100 miles away. That allows for individuality to a certain extent, but not so much support, you know. But nothing says that any of these people have to be healthy or good to be able to support you or whatever. And that's what you have to be careful about with families. There's an entire type of family therapy where they actually, most family therapy, you get everybody together and you hash things out and everything. But there's one type of family therapy, which in a sense is almost magical, where the therapist works with you alone. And what they do is they get you to do your family tree and to see what's the emotional baggage you got from your ancestors and your family. And their whole goal of that is to differentiate yourself from your family, mm-hmm. which is oftentimes the goal of magic, is to find your own way, you know, yes. And that's a very important process. And in finding your own sense of self, even within the family, then you have a base to come and break out of the patterns. And sometimes just you finding your own way can change the interactions with everybody, or breaking some of the rules. Like one of the things that you do with the family tree is, you find out, wait, why is that cousin? Why have I never heard of them? Or what about that person who died in World War II, but nobody really talks about, but how did that affect the family? Or, oh, that branch we don't talk to anymore. So they encourage you to go and talk to that branch.
Yeah.
And break out of the rules and everything. So it's really, in some senses, a magical path in some ways. And I hadn't even thought of this until now, that you are finding your true self, even within the family. And it becomes then the grist for the mill for you to do that. But it takes knowledge and courage to break out from your family in certain ways and all of that. But I think the teachings, the esoteric teachings we have in the West, if you apply and think about them the right way, the courage you get from going on the Wiccan and neo-pagan paths, yes, the Norse have their things about, dedication to the family, but they also have a thing about your own individual honor too, So those are important considerations and can really help with dealing with your crazy family,
Yes, and it also helps with you thinking, okay, this is your authentic self. This is who you are supposed to be. And if you offend somebody, it's their conditioned self that's reacting to you. It's not responding to you. It's reacting to you. It's
it's their own projections. Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And the thing about it is we see things that we don't like about ourselves and other people.
Mm-hmm.
And so when we see that, we tend to respond to that. Not respond, react to that.
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right.
Mm-hmm. For example, my father's side, I didn't speak to him for over 20 years. And when I finally called him, he wanted to know whether I would do a paternity test, a DNA test. And I'm like, oh my God, are you serious? That's the first thing he asked me. And with his side, I grew up to where he was only there. I mean, he was MIA throughout, most of my childhood. And I can only call him on a certain day during certain hours once a week if I wanted to speak to him.
Wow.
And so, honestly, being able to go back and talk to him, I had a lot of issues with that I had to personally work through and realize those were his issues, not mine, And now that we have a conversation, it was kind of interesting. I went to a funeral a few months ago for one of my favorite uncles. That was his brother. And there was a lot of people there. And most of that side of the family, they kind of know who I am, but I'm kind of like the black sheep of it. I'm the person you don't talk about. And so anyway, we went to the funeral and I started introducing myself and who my father was. And a lot of people were like, no, I didn't know he had another daughter. I'm like, yeah, I'm the good one. I'm the fun one. I'm the one you want to talk to. Right?
Good. Claim that. Yes.
Yeah, lay claim to that immediately.
Right. And it was the thing about it is before I went in there, I was I had to work through some issues because first of all, it was an uncle who I loved to death, who I grew up with, and he had died. And I had to.
He was probably your father figure then.
Right. He was kind of one of them, growing up as a kid. And he was one of the most delightful people that you could ever meet. And so I had to deal with that. And then on top of that, I'm going into a room full of strangers. And I am, the black sheep of the family. I'm the one that nobody wants to know about. And so I had to get over that factor as well.
It took a lot of courage.
Right. So I figure, I'm going to go in there. I am my authentic self, and I am going to own it. If you've got a problem, that is your problem, not my problem. I'm going to be as nice as I possibly can to you. But you know what? I'm going to be me. I'm not going to be somebody else, and I'm not going to be scared, and I'm not going to run away.
Just out of curiosity, Nikki, do you know if you have Saturn retrograde in your chart?
As we discussed yesterday, I hardly know anything about astrology.
Oh, okay. Because Saturn retrograde oftentimes shows an absent father. So,
Well, the thing about it is, from what little I've been told about my chart, I'm going into some type of major life transition. And I've had, for the last 5 years, it's been nothing but numerous challenges on top of challenges that I've had to overcome. And so they said that has something to do with Saturn. And I'm like,
yeah, the slower moving planets are the ones that have the most oomph, but they also take longer times of period to get through and everything. Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, it'd be, just remember if you ever do learn or dive into astrology, check and see if you have Saturn retrograde. It'd be interesting to see.
okay.
Yeah.
I'll definitely look into that. Thank you so much, Alan. You are amazing.
Mhm. I do okay.
Hey, don't you do that. Don't you do that. When somebody gives you a compliment, you say thank you and you be grateful for that. You got it?
Here, here.
Okay?
I'm terrific.
Okay? Because I'm going to have to come and find you, after this virus and kick your butt. Okay? So don't make me do that.
That's a threat I can handle. Okay.
So for the last year at in my area, I've been helping run the local psychic fair, and my family knows that I'm pagan, but no one really wants to talk about it. And growing up, I had a list of things that I was never, ever to do, completely and utterly taboo. And as life progressed, I found myself crossing off the list, saying, yeah, I've been doing this, 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 and this. And a couple of years ago, I looked at one thing left on the list and said, okay, there's one thing left on this list. And the person I am in love with does this for a living. So I'm going to learn it. So I crossed off tarot reading and threw the list away. And as time went on, I discovered I got really good at it and really intuitive. And I found myself doing running the local psychic fair because I live in Santa Cruz, California, and full of potheads, full of hippies. And I was the only reader there that showed up each month early and prepared to do what I was supposed to be doing. And the guy that was actually running it regionally decided he just didn't want to deal with it anymore. So he turned over the manual setup to me and getting the people set up. And okay, great. So I continued doing it. And one day I was talking to my parents, and my dad showed me a text of the banner of the psychic fair and said, yeah, your sister just sent me this, and here's the text. And she was trying to convince my parents to kick me out of the family because of what I was doing.
Oh.
And this was...
That was fun.
Yeah. And this was...
my siblings.
Yeah. And the funny thing is, the night before, well, this was the new moon. The day before, it was on one of those astrological dates where it was really important and a number of things would happen that would shape your future. The day before, I was getting this tattooed on my back. And one of the things I was thinking, I'm going to be my authentic self, and I want everything to come through so I could stop pretending, so I could stop caring about what other people think.
That's claiming your power.
Yeah. Yes. And the funny, when this was getting tattooed, I actually got a text saying that this particular mug was ready for me to pick up, and my business card that had the same emblem came through and said it was ready to be picked up, all at the same time when I was getting my tattoo.
Yeah, that's called a clue by four, being hit over the head by a clue by four.
Yeah.
I had a similar situation to that when I was younger. Actually, when I was like 16, 17, my stepmother, she had found like all of my Wicca books and my little book of shadows that I had going and all of that. And she completely lost her mind and came at me and said, if you're not Catholic, you don't live in this house, and yada, 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 yada. So I started packing my shit.
Sure. Call her bluff or see
And-
whether it's a bluff.
And you know, I was like, listen, fine. I'm going to continue to be who I am, you know? So packing my stuff. My dad comes home from work. He's like, what the hell are you doing? And I'm like, apparently I'm not Catholic, so I don't live here anymore. And I had the conversation with him about it. And my dad was cool. I will forever be like thankful for him for doing this. He ended up going into like a 3-day long knockdown drag out with my stepmother about it. And was like, you're going to let him do what he wants to do. And like, from that point, that was when I finally said, okay, I can be who I want to be, you know?
And you had somebody who is an authoritative figure who loves you backing you up.
Yeah, that was
incredibly powerful, especially for a young man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I applaud and I advocate for people who deal with similar situations. Like for instance, like I have a teaching coming here in South Jersey, and whenever somebody new comes on, if they're in the broom closet, I will walk them through the process, and even go and like speak to their parents for them, speak to their families for them, if I have to, just to kind of smooth over the process and say, listen, what he's doing is not evil. This is more of a personal, spiritual path that he's walking, you know?
Besides, it's not American to say that somebody can't have the religion that they want.
Right, it's not. but it is though.
Aren't you a patriot? Don't you believe in what our founding fathers built this country on?
I mean, like,
let me tell you guys something, okay? How my mother found out. My mother was told by my ex-husband that I was going up in the mountains and I was having these big bonfires with my friends, and I was dancing naked around the full moon, naked around. We were dancing around the fire, and it's under a full moon, and we were making pacts with the devil and screwing the devil. And so I didn't know that he had told her this.
Sounds like you read the Malleus Maleficarum from medieval times.
Right. Well, he is a Jehovah's Witness who claimed he wasn't practicing anymore.
Oh, well, there you go, yeah.
But anyway, so one day my mother and I are going down to my granny's house, and it's a 3-hour drive. And so, it's one of those drives in which you got 2-lane roads. And so there's really nowhere for, you to go. And then we were having this amazing conversation. And all of a sudden she says, "Are you a witch?" She said that Jim told me that you were a witch. And I said, and the first thing I said is like, okay, what did he tell you? Because the goddess knows what he had told her.
Right.
And she had told me what I just said. And I just started laughing. I couldn't help it. I just started laughing. Excuse me. I said, "Mom," I said, "yes, I'm a witch, but this is what we are. We're none of that." Okay. We believe in a God and a goddess because we believe in nature. And nature is both male and feminine. We're not here. There's nothing about the devil or Satan or Lucifer or anything like that in our religion. Basically, we're mostly a very peaceful people. It's just more of a spirituality thing. And the reason why I believe in it is because we have more of the female duality into it. It's not just male. And so we had this, really great conversation on the way down. And she was very supportive. It really, really shocked me. But what hurt her was the fact that I didn't tell her. And I told her, I said, the reason why I didn't tell you, because I wanted to tell you, but I didn't tell you because this year you found out that one of my brothers was gay, and you're getting to understanding what that was. And the other one was the fact you found out another one of my brothers was a drug addict. And so I figured putting on the witch would be a little bit too much.
Yeah.
You want to overburden her.
Yeah. Let me just throw another shovel's worth of shit on top, right?
Right. So I just wanted to find my time. But the thing about it is what I now that I look back on that, what I learned is that there's really not a good time to tell somebody something like that, whether you're you believe in another religion or believe in another faith, or you are not, or you're gay, or whatever the issue may be. There's never really a good time to say that.
Yeah.
It just has to be said, and then you have to follow, whatever comes after that. And hopefully you are bringing out your emergent, authentic self, and you understand what the concepts, what any consequences may be, and you're okay with what may fall.
Yeah.
That is the best thing that you can possibly actually do.
Yeah. I love it.
Fluffy. I love Fluffy. I love the name Fluffy. He's so
Thank
fluffy.
you. Yeah. My parents hate the name, and they also hate the fact that I'm a furry.
Mhm.
They suspected when I was growing up that I would turn out gay, but we never really got into it.
Actually, I thought you were more part of Duck Dynasty.
Of what?
Duck Dynasty.
I don't know that reference.
Oh,
You
there are a
need
bunch of guys with long beards who sell duck calls, and they're hardcore Christian fundamentalists. They had their own TV show.
And they're like multi-millionaires because of these duck calls.
Yeah,
Yeah, but
probably the TV show.
like a ZZ Top.
Well, okay. Well, I have the beard because I need to play the part of a mystic, and it really does help.
Oh yeah.
And
That's why I like that.
and I was actually looking at my picture from the Zoom picture, and I'm really realizing with the white shirt on, it looks horrible because you can't really see the beard, so you just see this cloud of gray floating right at my chin.
You look very mystical.
Yes.
Thank you. And I also wear this because bald.
Ah,
There's nothing wrong with that.
that means you have a perfect head.
Yeah.
Hey, Elton John was bald.
Sign of wisdom.
Yeah. So
Sign of wisdom. Your hair falls out, and due to stresses and experiences that you've gone through, So being bald or thinning your hair and all of that's more a sign of wisdom to me.
thank you.
Mine just happened from behind.
Yeah, it just moved.
What's this baldness thing you talk about? Yeah.
Well, you know what? Making you bald actually makes you look more psychic in a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
let me jump in here, folks. You're listening to CEM Broadcasting. It's kind of a sample of what we're doing. You've been listening. And so CEM, go to Corellian.net and join us in our psychic fair. We're right about $1,350. So it's been moving very slowly, but it has been moving. And I think people have been having a lot of fun. We've been able to work on a lot of the different aspects of it being in a flash event. Rich has been here talking with us. There've been people talking on and off and everything else, but I'm watching the boards. I'm going to be out there. We've learned some things about social media. I guess I'll talk about it later at some point, but I found out how little sharing is being allowed by large members of our community as they've gone to share this very large scale event, and we can be able to do a lot of tracking. So I've been able to get a really good echo of what's out there. And
Are the various platforms preventing things from being shared?
So I myself have never been, knock on wood, thank you fairies, I've ever been in Facebook jail.
Yeah.
Not once, not the entire time I've been involved with it.
Well, I'm on their radar, and I've already told you that, with me sharing my workshops, because I'm a spiritual life coach, so I share my workshops. And because, the first time I became on their radar was when I was sharing a video of a dog throwing its own ball, going and getting the ball, putting the ball back in the machine and throwing it back again. And they told me
that one. Yeah.
Yeah, they told me it was a violation of the community.
So there's been some really weird little algorithmic problems. There's been some reporting problems. Oh, there's a whole bunch of things. I'm saying it's not even one thing, but we have Rolando has had tons of problems with it. And I'm finding out more and more. Lori Blackman, our press secretary, has had some really difficult times. She can't send out right now. She's trying to do it. And other people, no problem. I mean, I'll be honest, I've not had a problem, and I'm not looking for a problem either. So, folks, I'm not asking for the internet to change that on me.
I've shared it quite a few times, and one would figure as much as I am like promoting my album and the live Facebook concert and all of that stuff that I'm doing, I'm surprised I'm probably on a list and well on my way to being put in Facebook jail for spam.
And you might not be. One of the things I'm learning is that you might not be.
Yeah. I mean, they pick all kinds of dumb reasons. I mean, they said that my workshop has something to do with the coronavirus. And I'm like, it has absolutely nothing to do with the coronavirus. So they stopped me from posting anything for 3 solid weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And now I'm trying to share this event in the groups that I'm part of. And I'm also trying to share it on all of my pages, in which they have told me several times on my pages that they're not allowed to be posted on my pages. I'm not allowed to post my own stuff on my own pages.
So weird. And that you've tripped the algorithm for what they consider a commercial count from a, and I don't know why. It's kind of semi-random, but I've learned quite a bit about this Echo. It's very, very interesting because I'm also watching Clouds there, how his album is being received and how his message is getting out.
Mm-hmm.
So most people don't know. I just finished a 10-year experiment, actually a study experiment with social Facebook. I said from the beginning that Facebook is a social experiment of epic proportions, and that over the last 10 years, if you watch the various things we followed, the fact that now it's turning into a complete and utter replacement for mass media. Mm-hmm. Not just Facebook, but the internet and various components of it. As we're following that mass media is falling apart, and it's becoming more and more niche media. Even the biggest players right now are only looking to get, if they're lucky, 15, 20 million viewers out of the 2.85 billion viewers that exist in the Facebook world.
Mm-hmm.
And so
Facebook wants you to buy ad time. That's the reason why they limit you. It's just like when I have an event, the event that's coming up, the 2020 Authentic Leadership Conference on Friday.
Mm-hmm.
They told me I was only limited to inviting 50 people to that.
That's yeah. They put a lot of limits because, again, the problem is you have other people who just absolutely rape the system and make it, it's a tragedy of the commons on the electronic world.
Yeah.
The more, we want to create some of these open spaces. I've had to take a lot more security into Zoom because of the fact the commons that we can all use as service. There's a handful of people who come in and say, well, we deserve more than everybody else, even when there's no need for that. And so that's, the rape of the commons. And I do know that one of the biggest problems I've seen over and over again is that certain individuals, if they get a little bit, they just are able to, and for good profit sometimes, just to kind of leverage it.
The question that I have here, which I've always been worried about, is the people who check stuff for Facebook oftentimes are from different cultures and different countries than the United States.
Mm-hmm.
I know that oftentimes they use, especially in the wee hours, the Philippines because it's daytime there. And what you have then there is a combination usually of Asian culture, which is very rigid in some ways, and Catholic culture. And so, it's witchcraft, we'll ban it, and I'm wondering, have you noticed anything that shows that tendency? Because that's something that I'm very scared of.
Reverend Orlando,
mm-hmm.
being in the Philippines, he's constantly hit for things. And we just went through an entire mechanism.
I low-key
he's been actually hit, and we've shared his stuff here in the States,
mm-hmm.
and have gotten away with the exact same thing. And in fact, when a lot of us started really working to help him, he got more being allowed to publish again. But he's in the Philippines, and he got hit so hard.
Yeah.
It's crazy. I low key think that's what's happening with my album and why it's caught up on a logjam. With the distributor right now, to it not being on like all of the streaming sites and on every platform that it's supposed to be on right now. And without putting anybody on blast, I'm not going to give any names or anything like that. But I have a feeling that there may have been somebody that did not agree with the idea of witchcraft that reviewed my album and then buried it. So I've been going through customer service and all that, and barking up trees and trying to figure it all out. But I think there's definitely, when it comes to the social media, there is that kind of bias against the individual that's doing the review.
Oh, let me go ahead. If you get okay, scary folks, let's go back to the beginning. Okay, seriously, there's a lot of it in there. Once upon a time, we had to save the children from the evil internet and all the porn. And the way that you put the porn and control the porn, and so the little boys and girls can't get on dirty pictures, is first we tried to set up paywalls and all sorts of identities. But it got down to the idea of building security sites. So you can put security to block certain sites. These were built out by a number of companies, including one called
Net Nanny.
Well, Net Nanny is one of them. Was paid for by the Zondervan Bible Publishing Company.
Zondervan?
Yeah. And they owned a huge one, and they gave this software away to restaurants and other people to help them. In 2008, Witch Cool could not go into any Panera Bread and get onto the internet. If you tried to get it on from the internet, Witch Cool was banned at all Panera Breads and a lot of other people who use this software. Today, this type of software has now just kind of vanished, right? No, it's gotten built more and more to the system. It's more foundational. Instead of just trying to do these sort of securities, they build it up, and these things get tagged so that you get less and less approach in search engine optimization, algorithms, and all of this. So these old security programs have been more and more incorporated into the algorithms of ways of detecting bad material.
Wow.
Is that what they call shadow banning?
That's shadow banning by nature.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not anything direct, it's indirect, but it's enough to keep people from seeing you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and another term that's popped up recently is editorial discretion. That's another term. And I think it's just kind of shadow banning with a new fancy name on it.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the fortunate things Witch Cool was able to do, because we get into technologies fairly early, that's why we're working on the Zoom system, and why it's very important. What we're doing now is extremely important to me. There's everybody knows me, and I really do mean to try to raise money for everybody. Everything I do is I commit, but everybody who knows me knows that I've actually I'm trying to test a theory of how the internet works and things of that nature. I'm a big scientist on this stuff. I'm a nerd. But Witch Cool got so early in the system that we got lodged. We actually existed long enough before Google got started that we got to be foundational. And that's why we continue to exist in such a powerful way, is that we're foundational. Pegasus Night Radio became foundational. A lot of the stuff I try to do becomes foundational. And today, foundational is Zoom, how we program Siri, all the stuff that a lot of our pagan community goes, oh, I don't want anything a part of. It really is the time now to kind of be programming it for the next generation. Because I've seen what happened. The ban by these security people to keep the children out has now led to shadow banning and controls of how things are presented on the internet through the search engines. I have lots of these little scary stories about how the internet really works the way people think they work.
Yeah.
So I'm training to be a life coach, and I'm actually ready to get clients. And I ran across an affiliate marketer online, and he never really wanted to look at my niche markets to learn how to adapt what he was doing to help me. So he tried to get me to do all sorts of stuff online to affect the algorithm and things. It didn't really work all that well. I'm still not sure why, but I did learn what type of people were responding to what type of pictures or images, and there were a couple of groups on Facebook that I was part of. And one thing that just really baffled me was an image of I found of the sky where it had a bunch of really pretty clouds and the sun setting. It got, in the 9 days that it got what's been out there, it was shared over 512 times. It had, wait, sorry, it was 1,200 times, and it had 600 interactions and 400 comments. I cannot for the life of me figure out why that happened, and the stuff I am posting on Facebook does not actually get recognized by the algorithm. It's driving me batshit crazy.
So I'm producing, me and my teams are producing over 30 pieces or more content a day.
Mm-hmm.
You have to, just to get the minimum reaction. And one of the things you have to understand, so some of the silliest things or some of the things that are most likely to attach to you as an individual. So many people forget the stress relieving nature of Facebook. So my number one page is called Witch Cats.
I believe it.
And it does about 1 million impressions a month on 1 to 2 major pictures a day.
Mm-hmm.
Funny cat stuff, because everybody can relate to cat stuff.
Oh, yeah.
On the other hand, I have sharing, where I share the prophecies and predictions that I've made, and I reshare them over and again. And I'm lucky if I get 10 views, much less any shares.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is one of the things that sell in life coaching, especially life coaching, because I'm a big Gary Vee fan. Alan and I know we talk about all this stuff all the time, is that they need to know, everybody tries to sell the bacon and the sizzle, and they forget to tell you that they're supposed to make you not hungry. So you're constantly trying to get your clients so hungry that they're going to buy anything to get to make that thing. Most of these life coaches, and they use a series of funnels. You could have been on a very good funnel, and a funnel is where they go out and make all these pages. You've seen the ads. Oh, take a free seminar with me. Do this, do that.
I know. Yeah, my Facebook is full of those ads.
Right. Mm-hmm. And so that's a funnel. And then what happens is that there's one called Wiccan Academy. I'm going to go after one that's right now existing. Okay. Wiccan Academy has been around for maybe a year and a half now. And they got a beautiful young lady to go ahead and do about 15 hours with the film. And now they're spending all their money, gets you to spend $9.99 a month to get to read all these things. And they're spending up to $5 per person they get in to translate, because they've already paid for all the classes. These funnels are all very low cost systems. Right? So if you wanted to do coaching for Fluffy, it says, Fluffy will help you coach and make your life happier. Everybody's going to say, well, if your life was happier, everybody's in these funnels, right? If your life was happier, you would have all of these things, materialistic approach. Or if you were happier, you would feel all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And so the minute they believe that you can give it to them, that triggers the thing, regardless. And people really spend a lot of time through neurolinguistic programs, advanced propaganda methods. There's a lot of Facebook algorithms that are done, brain tingling. There's all sorts of ways, and they try to get you to react. And for most people, they don't have enough cash, but some people do. So I've forsaken a lot of these things. Instead, what we do for our content, right, is that we just kind of present more and more material, kind of being a poll, saying, if you like what we do, come find us. And that's one of the things that's preserved us against the sort of more aggressive occult things, such as eBay. We got pulled because too many people were doing spells and too many people were ripping people off. That's why there's a big ban on, most credit cards won't take psychic readings because of the bad apples. So by not being aggressive in our advertising, i.e. trying to sell everybody, but instead, here's what we're offering and pulling them, we've been very fortunate to be able to do things like this, where we can spend hours on Facebook live without being interrupted.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
One of the things my affiliate marketer friend told me to do, he outlined his sales pitch, and the term that came to mind was used car salesman. He was instructing me to act and engage in 15 to 20 people every day, make the sales pitch, and record all the no answers and find reasons to bypass them. So when I do find someone I actually want, all they're left with is, I cannot afford this. And then you get them to tell you when they get paid next. And so the moment that happens, you approach them again. You keep on hounding them until you give them the money.
That's called hardball selling or hard selling. That's the
Yeah.
very nature of it.
Yeah, and that's not something I resonate with. And if I'm going to be getting a client, I'm gonna want a client that actually wants to be there, not one that I manipulated, because those are the ones that are going to go away.
So I don't do a lot of coaching. I'm starting to do more of it, but I'm very fortunate in that I try on the principle. I try to be so good a coach that everybody wants me to coach them. So I'm trying to be, so instead of trying to sell them the product, that basically the product that they find out from others that they want the product. That's a much harder form of selling, but that is what has been the way that I think you see much more strong within pagan communities and psychic communities, and more oppressed cultures. I mean, more oppressed marketplaces. We were talking about in the world. The number one person they're selling to at any given time is 18 to 35-year-old white males. Primary place that they market. Psychics and pagans primary market, and I need to do better at it. And I always appreciate people doing that, is, believe it or not, 25 to 45 and 35 to 55-year-old women.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly mothers and grandmothers. Number one, when they try to make me pitch, that's where they try to get me to pitch to. And for Witch School, the number one pitch for us is obviously the 15-year-old child. Every day we've been on there, we always pivot towards the 15-year-old child. Today, that 15-year-old child is 35 years old, and we have a lot of them on the system.
I'm 38, so I'm almost on that target.
Alan's even got to meet some of them. Alan went out to illustration last year with us. Right? Yep. And he got to meet some of these people who are really long-term. Most people don't know it. Alan was going to be the president of Witch School for a while, until fate decided to give him a different direction.
It's called almost dying.
what almost on it?
Yes. Yeah.
You had the great lengths, Alan, to get out of that job, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, I woke up one morning and I thought I had the flu. By that evening, I was in the emergency room. I spent a month in ICU and a couple of weeks getting off a ventilator, a month in a rehab hospital, and 6 months in a nursing home. But I found the algorithm for getting better food in nursing homes. You take pictures of how bad your meals are, place them on Facebook, and people take pity on you and order out takeout Chinese.
Awesome.
So that reminds me, a couple of years ago, I was stuck in the hospital due to a double bone infection and osteomyelitis. Ooh. I had it for 3 years and never noticed. And I was also diabetic and allergic to pork. And so they kept on giving me food I can't eat, didn't want to eat. Yeah. And I kept on sending it back to the food back to the cook or whoever it is. And then I realized I had a better option. So I wrote down a little piece of paper and said, this is what I want. This is the type of food I actually want and could eat. And by the way, the head nurse is my aunt, Kathy Swin. She knows everyone. And I sent this back, and within 10 minutes, I got what I wanted.
Yeah. So let me go ahead and offer another example. So I'm going to presume if you're listening to this, you're listening because you're supporting us, or you might be a little bit bored on a Saturday afternoon.
Yay.
You might be a number of things, but one of the things I think you listen to is you just put out a very important principle that we need to start using in our own community, and that is start to mention each other. Mentions are actually a very hidden power within the algorithms. So if you mention a famous person and they do anything with your piece, it increases your value. It's called blue starring or check marking. It's depending where you're at. Blue, the blue mark right next to your name means you've gone through an extra process.
Oh, well, in that case, I'm just going to tag you in every post I do that at.
And then you gotta watch it. The minute I ban you from doing that or end you from doing that. But yes, you can absolutely do that. And you've done that, right?
I tagged you in one.
Yeah, you're supposed to. And that raises the weight all around. I actually am very fortunate in that, and I'm going to be unnaturally the fact of boastful. I've really nurtured my Facebook account, and it has a lot of value when I want to convey information. Maybe not quite enough, but I was able to attract and bring together through my whole social media a great group of psychics, built something in less than 2 weeks, and began the process of advertising it. Right. If I was really not worried about quarantine and wanted to knock out some of the bugs so that we have a better system for Three Gates next weekend, because we're doing the Three Gates and Pagan Unity Festival next weekend, we're going to do great. So I've learned a lot. So I'm willing to fail. Understand. First, you have to be willing to fall flat on your face.
Absolutely.
Two, but I've been very good about finding people. So one of the basic things is mentioning them. The same thing that you do. So the reason I'm known in the pagan community, it's a very simple one. In the city of Chicago, I basically started distributing a small magazine and started doing workshops, or basically study groups, not workshops, study groups. So along that way, I met Alan. And one of the things I did is I liked radio. I ran a psychic service, very similar to this, except it was before its time co-working offices. I rented tables to psychics during the week because they couldn't read at psychic fairs. And the idea of reading on the phone just wasn't there yet. I would run into Miss Cleo and the 900 lines, which would change that paradigm. But nobody thought you could get a really good reading over the phone. You got to meet them at shops or other spaces. And so you had to meet them at shops. Oh, Alan remembers that those days. And so we ran.
That was your little magazine was called The Round Table, right?
That's correct.
Yeah.
And so
a few people threatened to sue you. Well, one person, but that's a whole other story.
No, several threatened to sue me. One did.
Yeah.
Yes, I only got sued once.
Uh-huh.
I survived it.
Well, you basically told the truth about somebody. That's the best defense.
Not as much as you would think.
No.
No, I got hit for. They almost got me. I mean, I came really super close. They came really close to getting me. Because you cannot lead a person to a conclusion. I did a little bit too much of that. If you're claiming to be unbiased or claiming to be a news source and you do it, you can't lead them to a conclusion. That's insulting. So I ended up calling this person a bad person. I can say it. His name is almost invisible in our community. He's a gentleman you probably never heard of, and I hope you never do, by the name of Jack Armstrong. And he was attacking women. He was doing a lot of sort of danger. So I did a 6-page expose, scandalized the entire community. He sued me. And one of the things I did is said, so you shouldn't do business with him. And that became the whole piece that he would sue me over. Because I was trying to take away his livelihood without fully proving my facts in a public court.
So my question is, the news media does this stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Well, rules have changed. Okay, this was in 90. I did this in 94. What I wrote back then would not be considered scandalous today.
Right.
Right. It was let me go on. I could get away with what I wrote back then was tame compared to what I would, what I can write now. Because there's been this erosion under Reagan was something called the Fairness Doctrine. And the Fairness Doctrine kind of forced television stations, radio stations, and other public airwaves to give equal time to a number of thoughts. So that's why oftentimes you would see these weird editorials in the middle of the night. And so citizen so-and-so will tell you about this. Because they had these doctrines. Reagan took away the doctrines and it gave birth to basically one-sided news, radio. Radio was dying. You don't understand. AM radio was dying.
That's where all the right-wing Christian commentators wound up then.
That's correct, because it was almost a dying medium. And because it was such a dying medium, Sinclair and a number of other groups begged Reagan to take away the Fairness Doctrine because they couldn't, they really couldn't find an equal balance. And then, and something that I did very simply, and so they allowed, so Rush Limbaugh changed the course of radio. He became the largest speaker of his kind. And what he did is he went to the advertisers and said, would you advertise with me first? Prior to that, you went with a show to the radio stations and worked with them to get advertisers. You went to the radio stations, said, I have my show and I'm going to pay you so many advertising dollars. I'm going to buy the time. And you can do some, I'll give you back some of your own time. But he bought the time. And then that's how he got basically there. He guaranteed those radio stations the minimum amount of commercial time that they were going to earn. Inverted the model completely. Prior to that, you syndicated and they would pay the syndicator a small amount of money to do your show, and then they sell the commercials around it. Now this guy comes in, says, I will give you a show. I will make sure you got so much money, and you'll have a little bit of your own time to sell at a premium because I'm a national figure with some extra cash.
Fascinating. I didn't know that's how he did it. And so other people copied him?
Sure.
Sure.
The entire broadcast and excellence and everything else. Even I did. I mean, I still do that. I mean, truthfully, all the pagan media that we get, I buy. I buy Pagans Tonight Radio. I buy the Blog Talk Radio. I bought the airtime back then. Everything I've done is I've bought our time in order to give us flexibility. But that's how it changed everything.
Well, I just learned something. Nice.
Yeah. So, but the difference between that and music is payola was a different issue. So you can't pay a radio station to play your music.
Right.
But you could buy the entire hour to play your album.
Right. I'm not going to do that. No, it's like, it's funny because looking back on it and how they talk about, you know, royalties and how all of that works nowadays, like this like content ID system through YouTube and through all of that, where people can put copyright claims on YouTube videos that have your music in them or whatnot. It's kind of, and between that and like your streaming sites with Spotify, iTunes, and you know all of those streaming music sites, it's completely flipped the music world upside down.
Absolutely.
And it's almost made CDs completely irrelevant. Now there's still people that buy CDs, but most of the younger generation, they're all doing the streaming.
So understand the lesson of 1984 on Kindles. There was an unauthorized version of 1984 sold, and they sold a lot of copies. And Kindle found out there was illegal copies. So they took them all off everybody's Kindle that was online and paid everybody back their money. It was very funny. It was that book that they chose and they'd already done it for over 200 books already. So what was that? It was just that copy of 1984 caught everybody's fancy.
Right.
The value of a CD or a flash drive or any sort of digital information off the line is that they can't confiscate that. So the question is do we believe in an open society? Do we think the internet's going to continue to be an open and equal society? And every sign is not. Because you talk about all these different services that are becoming gatekeepers. The money is becoming a gatekeeper. Okay? For anyone else to be a gatekeeper. So if you want to be a psychic, it's not just enough to be a psychic. You know, everybody's a psychic, right? You have to be more than that. You have to be a gatekeeper to something more than they can get to for themselves. Some way of knowing that you have a greater value. My biggest gatekeeping is that I'm known enough interviews. If you want to get an interview, I'm the easiest interview to get. I'm also one of the harder interviews to get. Depends on the day. But getting an interview with me, for some people, it sounds crazy, but they see that as a moment. I found this out recently, as a moment of prestige, especially on the radio, because I've done it for so long, and I do some great interviews and I do things like that. But because I'm doing that with them, they like, oh wow, you add to their prestige. This is a constant process. So then you become a gatekeeper for that aspect. Alan is, you know, one of these guys is a great. So Alan is more of a keyman. There's a difference. Alan is a real key person. And what do I mean by a key person? So I'm a gatekeeper, meaning if you get with me, I can open up resources to you. Look at what we're doing now. Try and build a psychic fair and things like that.
Right.
Alan, who I've known for a very long time, is a gatekeeper. If you really talk to Alan, right, he's able to identify things that you need and people that he knows and maybe know, and give you a key to go to the next step with a person.
Right.
And that's Alan's greatest value. One of his greatest values is that he knows so many people, and they know and they like him. You know, they aesthetically like him. And then he's able to keep keys. So you have to have a value, and these are the number 1 and 2 values inside our pagan community. The third is being a great performer, but that is always locked up behind, am I going to tell my community about it?
Right.
Or can I tell you, like Alan can, who should talk to? And are they going to open up parts of the community?
Right. Yeah,
that's the hardest thing the pagan community is facing right now, is that we're really locked up into these silos.
Yeah. Everybody's got their own little door they're behind. Yeah, I'm picking up what you're putting down. Definitely.
So Witch School is the most open system out there. We are the largest in the world because of the fact that we have, you can enter in for free. You can take a bunch of classes for free, never interact with anyone if you don't want to, or interact with people. And we don't necessarily ask you for anything, so that we've lowered that threshold to join us by a lot.
Right.
We don't have any value in our system for keeping, for storing information away in a big way. What we are doing is we're a teaching organization. This is very transitional. So today, the psychic isn't about what they know. It isn't about it anymore. It's about what you experience. So now we have become brokers of experience and attention. It isn't just about listening to your music. It's about it bringing attention. And when you get that attention, it brings an energy or a feeling or an experience. No one's going to be buying as much shit. I mean, people have been in their houses. They're tired of their stuff. You know, secondhand stores are going to be right now going to fill up. It's going to be the most amazing time to buy anything you want at secondhand stores. Absolutely. Mark my word, in the next couple of weeks. Most amazing history, the golden weeks of thrift buying, which I'm a very big fan of. Because people are going to be sick of their stuff. Really sick of their stuff.
Oh, because they've been around it for so long?
And first years, and they always say, oh, I should get rid of that. And you're always so busy, why bother? And then finally you're kicking it for the 15th time.
You're absolutely right. Since this quarantine started, my wife and I have bought a new bed. We bought new pictures for the walls. We have a computer desk in order. Like we have, yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right about that. Like, and yeah, from the musician standpoint of, you know, all of the self-promotion and all of that goes into the process of trying to get your music out as an independent musician. Now, before I released it by myself, I sent my album to like 6 or 7 different record companies, and I got denied by 6 of them, and one of them said it didn't even get back to me.
Congratulations.
Yeah. 6 of them outright denied me, and their total was, this is good, but I don't know how to sell it. You know, and I'm like, well, the hell. All right, fine. I'll sell it then, you know? So now I'm doing all of this little, you know, Facebook posts and, you know, joining all these groups and sharing this music to here and using the social media platforms as well as I can. And it's not gaining the exposure that I would like. And I think that has to do with my use of hashtags, algorithms, and all of that that's happening right now. But what you just said about gatekeeping and, you know, all of that, it's like, okay, so what I think I need more on my end is more networking.
So yeah, if I were you, I would go in and spend an hour or two and going on to every one of the pagan influencers, say on Instagram, right? And give them values. Find a picture you like, or offer them a real compliment or some information, right? And then let them know that you exist. So on Instagram, and ask them straight out, hey, I'm, you know, especially if they show any signs of being, you know, pagan in the street. Heavy witch is somebody you should approach. Okay. On Instagram, 356,000 people. DM them, ask them, hey, would you take a look at my album?
Yeah.
Instead of going after everybody, so everybody's making the big mistake within our community, going after everybody in the audience. You want to be a bigger reader, and I didn't do it this time, and I am when I set up the service, and I am going to set up a psychic service. This is showing me that I need to do this. I haven't done really well with this, but I've learned so much from it. I got it. Is that offering a free reading or offering a music, right? To some of these bigger influencers, then they pick it up and then they send it to their community. If you're a reader, offer to do readings for some of these bigger readers. Don't expect them to even give you anything for it. Just kind of offer it to them. Say, hey, I know that you're out there and everything else. Would you mind if I read you? Bring them a value.
Rich, do you have any of your stuff on YouTube?
What's that?
Rich, do you have any of it on YouTube?
Oh yeah, I'm all over YouTube. I have a channel called Moon Willow Magic, and on that channel I talk about paganism and pagan life and all of that, and I do my music on there as well.
Well, let me, in the spirit of what Ed said about my abilities, which actually I hadn't thought of in that way, there's two connections that I want to give you. One is Lon Milo Duquette.
Oh, Lon's great.
Okay, Lon is a national officer in the Ordo Templi Orientis.
Oh.
He has written at least 24 books. Yeah, there's one of his books. He has been recently reading from his books to his fans during the quarantine. But he has also written songs and won contests, including one contest where if he wasn't so old, he would have been on like Jimmy Fallon. And when they rejected him, he wrote a song about "Don't Count Me Out." Okay. So I encourage you to look at his YouTube channel, especially his music. And one of the things that you could do is approach him and tell him what you're doing. Okay. The other person I would say is look up Scarlett Ravenswood. She's got about 50,000. Scarlett has about 50,000 connections across all of her platforms, and she has a podcast, and she might be able to put you as a guest with some of your music because she plays some music and everything.
Yeah, I know who Scarlett Ravenswood is. I watch her actually.
So
most men do. She's very photogenic.
And approach the podcasters too. All these podcasters. And if you guys are interested, I can give you guys lists of podcasts where they are always looking for guests. There's certain lists out there to do so.
Yeah.
Help a reporter out. There's a bunch of ways of doing so. The problem is most of us are unwilling to get out of our comfort zones. What accidentally turns people into gatekeeping or gated communities is our own ability not to want to, we want that person to keep us safe. They don't necessarily want, I'm probably one of the wilder, I know it doesn't look like it, but I'm probably one of the wilder people know. I'm the guy who basically, there's a joke about me, I live to give everybody an example of what to do or what not to do. I'm the guy that your mother warned you about. And I'm a bit of a wild child, I do take on a lot more risk and I take a lot more ability to do so, but that's in my nature. And because of that, I'm able to do so. So people are more willing, if I'm rejecting it for any reason, a lot of people say, well, I got to reject it too, because I know how wild that is. I can't possibly go out there. And at the same time,
one of your better quotes about yourself is your reputation has a better time than you do.
True. And all rumors about me are true, regardless of the facts.
It's funny because there's a lot of pagan YouTubers out there and, all these social media influencers. And I think maybe from a networking aspect, because they already have their own followings. And then there's groups like Wiz School that have been around for 20 years. And it's a way of reaching out to these people on that side of things would be beneficial to Witch School,
Sure.
to CEM, and all of that as well, not just with my own music. You know, like I think that
Mm-hmm.
putting in that and trying to make those connections to kind of like bridge the gap between the two, I
That's what
think
I
will be
live
really
for.
beneficial to our community as a whole.
It's one of the things I've definitely lived for. In the sense of that, I've always tried to create a basket, just as you are here. A lot of people have never, given opportunities. So I generally create a platform. I'm an architect, and I build structures that other people use to get their message across. I built Witch School not to give you the doctrine of Ed, because if I did, it would be, don't listen to Ed. He's crazy in the head. I'm not going to try to teach you how to live your life, live your own life, drink coffee. But I could share with you my ideas of philosophy. Now, I'm much more of a coach in that aspect. I can help you find your thing. And the thing I think I do better for everyone is give them a chance. And you'll hear people say, Ed got me to do something that I didn't think I could do. I love pushing people into doing things that they don't think they can do. But having said that, I built Witch School to allow many different people to teach their class, and not just the Corellians, but the Corellian community. But I offered it to every witch tradition across the board. They just thought that was the silliest idea in the world. Pagans Tonight Radio wasn't just Ed broadcasting, to become the next Art Bell. We had 7 nights a week of different groups telling their story. Magic TV. It wasn't just Don and me just talking about our ideology. We went out and interviewed. We have over 700 interviews with people from across the board.
Buckland, Selena Fox, just several different people.
Including Olivia Robertson, who's passed. We have a lot of that sort of thing. So we've used that sort of methodology. So I've always been believing. So when we talk about CEM broadcasting, it's the same thing. It's not really about, just us trying to create content for ourselves. It is about how do we get a basket of content that's going to be the most attractive to the community. And I'll tell you, while I've done okay with it, we don't have yet that mini pagan network that's going to go out there. When I started the season this year, I was going to go around to every festival, get permission to film them. Who knew that I was going to be hosting a bunch of them? They didn't know it at the time. They couldn't have possibly, when we were talking, they couldn't have possibly imagined that this would have happened. Not the way it did. But I was talking about sharing their shows and things like that. Can you imagine going to Starwood and Starwood Saturday night concert? That would be amazing, right? You'd pay a little bit of money to go see that, or
they have some great performers. They pay for bands to come in, and I mean, like one year they had, like I'd mentioned earlier, they had Big Brother and the Holding Company, which was Janis Joplin's old band, and they found some woman who knows how many people they auditioned. And she had the same Joplin voice and everything. It was like being at a Janis Joplin concert. It was incredible. They had the world's best, the guy who brought African drumming to America. They had Babatunde Olatunji there with an entire ensemble of amazing African drummers with polyrhythms that, just blew you away. And if you could broadcast that and get a deal with them,
That's my next gatekeeping duty. Try to get those gates loosened up.
Mm-hmm.
So it's getting there. So I want to thank everybody. I think we're going to break for dinner.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I was just checking. I was like, oh, wow.
So and everything else. And I thank Rich for you coming on. And I thank all the things. So why don't we do one last extradition? Tell people how they can find you. Let's do this last piece right. How can they find you? What can they do? Why don't we start with you, Rich?
You can find me at Cloud Raps Wicca, all one word, .bandcamp.com. You can also find me at Cloud Raps Wicca on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. The same moniker will work for all three if you wanted to check out any of my pages or anything like that. And I want to say thanks for having me on again, man. It's an absolute blast, and I'll be sure I'll be popping back on tomorrow and all that. I think we're going to cut out doing the music live because it's not coming out.
No, it's cool. So we'll figure out. We'll have another conversation about whatever it is coming to mind and figuring out how to do it. So tomorrow's another day.
Absolutely. It sounds good. It's been a pleasure speaking with everybody. You guys are all awesome.
You too.
Thank you. Good meeting you, Rich.
Okay. Alan, your turn.
Okay, I am Alan Salmi on, let me see, on Twitter, I am Schrodinger's Youper, or Astro Aspects is at Astro Aspects because that's my main astrology thing. My cat is on Twitter also, and he tweets political stuff. Just look for Humphrey Chill Cat. And I am also on in this. Ed talked me into it. God help me. I am also Uncle Witch on TikTok, and I actually have 5,000 followers on TikTok. It's pretty amazing. But you know, there are a lot of young witches who are looking for older witches to tell them, you know, good resources and stuff. So I'm on there, and you can always find me on Facebook, Alan Salmi. There's a couple of Alan Salmis, but I'm not the one who shoots moose in Canada or the one who rides a Harley. You know, I am listed at Abbott Laboratories as a Bic Lighter repairman. So you'll find me there on Facebook. That's one of the easiest ways. And my email is real easy. It's alan.salmi@gmail.com. That's SALMI, not a sausage. But Salmi is an old Finnish name. It translates as your reindeer is dead behind the igloo and starting to smell, so please move it before we beat you up and call the police.
I just love your cat just walking right across your face and coming in and out like magic.
Yeah, this is Humphrey. This is my mostly good little boy. Like I said, he has his own Twitter account. He has very solid political opinions, though.
All right.
So
thank you, Alan. Now, Nikki, why don't we go ahead and get yours?
Yes, with me, you can find me at the Laughing Soul Holistic Center.com. You can also find me on Facebook on several different pages as well, underneath my name. You also can find me at the Laughing Soul Holistic Center, as well as the Hummingbird Soul blog, also with Moonlight Potions and Charms, which is my store. And then you can also find my shrine, and that is Ever Moving We Rise. So you can be able to come and join us. We're still looking for members and accepting them and everything, because we're all about the authentic self and emerging that and living a soulful life.
Terrific. Fluffy, your turn.
It's a Fluffy.
Yep. I am Jasper McDougall. Fluffy is my middle name. I'm on Facebook. Look for that. McDougall, MC.
You pop up in my people you may know all the time.
Excuse me?
You pop up in my people you may know all the time.
Yes, this particular Facebook account is about 2 months old. I deliberately picked a lot of people that had most of the same friends in common, just for that reason.
Nice.
I am a tarot reader, an actual client to make it official. And I also have a website, fluffyj.com. It's for tarot readings, and I could be found through there. I am on Instagram, Fluffy McDougall. Look for the hat. These hats is my signature piece of clothing. I always wear them. So anything that has that hat is probably connected to me. And as I said, available for tarot readings. I specialize in helping people break from codependency and step into a higher level of power to increase their vibrations to be happy.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
I see you there, Tessa. Did you want to say anything? No? There you go. Well, thank you, everyone. I think we're going to take our break for dinner, and it's there, and we'll be back later on this evening with more materials. And right now, go ahead. What should you be doing? You should be going to Corellian.net and picking out one of these fine readers or one of these fine workshops. And those pages will stay up. And if you are seeing this later, still go to Corellian.net, because what we're going to do with these pages afterward is that we're not going to take these away. We're going to make sure you people have access to them. And so that you can find these great readers and these other individuals later. And tomorrow we're going to do a bunch of merchants. I'm lining up merchants to come on all day. So yeah, so when you come out here, so we're going to be able, later on, you're going to be able to punch a button and find these readers. But right now you want to find them for this weekend to help us out. All right, folks, have a good one. Blessed be. And we'll see you in a little bit. We'll see you after dinner. Enjoy your dinners.
Pollinate your flowers with blessed bees.
Blessed be. Hail
Blessed
and
be.
farewell. Until we meet